daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, stopping by for our Ukraine War Report for the 31st of May, 2022. Hello, everybody, on this beautiful Tuesday evening, as we didn't have a report Monday yesterday. We had a 4-day break there over the weekend for Memorial Day. For everybody here in the United States, I hope everybody enjoyed their weekend and the Memorial Day holiday as well. To everybody tuning in this night, thank you so much again for stopping by. I see quite a few new faces in the live chat and quite a few familiar faces as well. Big shout out to Kender and Katlenberg this evening, two of our channel members that are tuning in. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for stopping by. Jillian, thank you so much for tuning in. Lori, Tango Down, Fallen Rays, thank you guys so much for tuning into the stream this evening. Thank you so much for the help in the moderator department. InquizX, I see you there in the live chat as well. Shout out to you as well. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Jill, thank you so much for stopping by. Doug, yo to you. Access denied. Says, hi, Nemico. Hope it's going good. It's going well. We're here today to get everybody filled in on what's going on in Ukraine. Again, in this ongoing, very bloody conflict, which is seeming to drag on here. We're approaching, I believe, the 100-day mark, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I'll get you guys the day count here. I believe it's day 97. So we're creeping up to the 100-day mark of this war. Again, the battle for the Donbass continuing to rage on. There's also a battle happening in the south part of Ukraine as well. We'll get to that here when I go through our primary headlines. Again, as usual, we'll start this evening going through our main headlines, kind of our key topics, and then we'll switch over into our community aggregated reporting from our Situation Room, from our Intel analysts over on the Discord community server. Again, big shout out to all of you guys over there in the Situation Room, in the Discord server, providing tonight's reports. After that, we'll switch to our open source reporting from sources like Live UA Map and quite a few others. We'll touch on a few different things as well while we're going through that Live UA Map. We'll be looking at a few different sources tonight as well. And then, of course, we'll stop we'll stop tonight's report on our Q&A. We'll end on our Q&A session as usual. Again, hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, and we are going to get you all caught up on what you have missed on all of the events that have been going on for about the past 4 days here. Of course, we'll focus on the 24 hours, the past 12 to 24 hours, but we will stretch back into the weekend and even into last week a little bit to get everybody caught up on what has been going on. Bernie Schumack says, hey, Nemico, Aussie present and accounted for, sir. Well, thank you so much, Bernie, for tuning in this evening. Again, to all of you, if you haven't already, hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention and to get this information in the hands of a lot more people. If you like what you see here, and if you haven't already, share this stream, share the video. Best way, again, to get that information out to more people. Also, it's a really good way to support the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Best way to get notified when we have new videos or new streams. To all of you guys following along on Twitch, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. If you haven't already, hit that follow button. But I love every single one of you guys over there on Twitch. If any of you guys have a problem with the stream, we are dual streaming on YouTube and Twitch. So if YouTube goes down, you can always hop over onto Twitch and vice versa. If Twitch goes down, you can always hop over on to YouTube. If you missed tonight's report, as always, we upload them to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Nemico Network. When we are complete with the live stream here, we will be uploading it again over there on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, we're going to start with our primary headlines for this evening. Really quickly, Epi, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Again, as always, really good to see our Scotsman tuning in the chat this evening. So again, first we're going to start out with our primary headlines. Again, for about the past 12 to 24 hours, I will mention a few things that happened over the last weekend and into last week as well as we come to them. Again, so first of all, most importantly here, again, the battle continues in the east of the country, in that Donbass region. We've been talking about that. I probably sound like a broken record. Again, I've mentioned that point, I think, at the beginning of every report for about the past month or so. That's the primary thing to be focusing on, is that battle that is raging in the east of the country, in the Donbass. That's where the primary fighting is happening. The Russian ground offensive has continued on that eastern city of Severodonetsk. Russian forces have seized half the city as of today in, quote, a frenzied push, the mayor told reporters earlier today. Local leadership said Russian troops hit a nitric acid tank at one of the city's chemical facilities. Russia's military suggested the Ukrainian forces were to blame, saying that's who still controlled the area during the explosion. Again, as of about an hour ago, we have an update that has come through. A few updates have come through. Again, we're still waiting to get more concrete information, but it does look like at this time that Severodonetsk is primarily in Russian control as of this hour. We'll have more information on that when we switch over into our open source reporting here later in the evening. Next headline. Ukraine's military claimed some gains in its counteroffensive in the southern Kherson area, which is currently under Russian control and has been for about a week or so, a few weeks I would say, has been primarily under Russian control in that area. Russian state media, meanwhile, reported that Kherson was preparing to potentially formally join the Russian Federation. Ukrainian military officials accused enemy forces of cutting the fiber optic connections between Kherson and the rest of Ukraine, disrupting mobile internet for residents. Russia denied this, accusing Ukrainian leadership of undermining alleged local pro-Russian sentiment in that region. European Union leaders agreed to ban most oil imports from Russia. The move is part of the bloc's newest sanctions package on Moscow, which had been held up by Hungary and other member states that rely heavily on Russian oil. We reported on that last week. Hungary, again, was holding up that decision there for quite some time. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the embargo would apply to around 90% of oil imports from Russia to the European Union by the end of this year. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban forced the EU to accept a ban solely on sea shipments of Russian oil. Pipeline deliveries, which are critical to Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, won't be affected by the ban. Over 3,000 Russian soldiers have been confirmed killed in action in Ukraine. This is a new report by the independent Russian website iStories. The report, based on local news coverage, social media postings, and confirmations from families of the dead, said it verified a total of 3,043 deaths from the Kremlin's war in Ukraine. The last official numbers were published by Russia's defense ministry, confirmed 1,351 deaths on March 25th. Western intelligence services have placed Russian losses between 7,000 and 15,000, even as Ukrainian officials have claimed much higher totals. Again, we've spoken about those totals many times on the show. When we bring those numbers are usually from that pro-Ukraine source, the Kiev Independent. But I often tell people the best way to get a very good idea of what those numbers are actually like is to take an average. Run an average between the Russian numbers, the Ukrainian numbers, and the Western numbers. And that average will give you a more realistic look at what those casualty counts are more like. 32 media workers have died while covering the war in Ukraine. Again, President Volodymyr Zelensky said, speaking in his nightly address, again, the president noted that French journalist Frédéric Leric-Imhoff became the latest victim on Monday when an armored evacuation vehicle came under enemy fire in the eastern Luhansk region. Media workers killed in the Ukraine war have also included Brent Renaud, Alexandra Kushinova, Vera Hirich, and many others. Again, we've reported on a few of those journalists that have lost their lives there in Ukraine. Those brave souls that have decided to go there and cover these events on the ground and bring us that information. Again, we've reported on quite a few of those that have lost their lives. Those journalists that have lost their lives. World oil prices, again, kind of going back to that EU deal from earlier. World oil prices today, about 2 hours ago, closed at the highest level in nearly 3 months after that EU deal. Again, that partial ban of Russian oil imports, which I spoke to a minute ago. Brent crude oil closed on Tuesday to the highest level in nearly 3 months after the European Union reached a deal to ban 90% of its Russian oil imports by the end of the year. However, oil finished well off its highs of the day after a new report signaled OPEC could be preparing to finally ramp up badly needed production. Brent crude, the world benchmark, gained 1% on the day, settling at about 122. It's about 122 and 84 cents a barrel, the highest close since March 8th. Earlier in the session, Brent traded as high as 125.28 a barrel. After initially rallying, U.S. crude closed at 114.67 a barrel, down 0.4% on the day. Again, kind of going into more depth there on that situation in Kherson. Ukrainian forces have made progress in the regions of Kherson and Kharkiv and are holding back Russian forces in Zaporizhia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his nightly address, again on Tuesday night, a quote from that report saying, "Our defenders show extreme bravery despite the fact that Russia has a substantial advantage in force and weapons," Zelensky said. "We want all of our people liberated, but it needs to be done with caution," he added. Again, Zelensky also applauded the new sanctions package approved by the European Council, which would cut down on imports of Russian oil as well as suspend Russian propaganda channels and remove Sberbank from SWIFT. Again, that's the International Bank Messaging System. NATO's chief is traveling to Washington, D.C. Tuesday to meet with top U.S. officials. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg is traveling to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday for a working visit, the alliance said in a statement earlier today. Stoltenberg will be in the U.S. Capitol until Friday and is expected to meet with top U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, according to that statement. He will also give a speech at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. Again, State Department says U.S. welcomes proposed U.S. Russian oil ban, as I reported on earlier. A quote from that report, just to add on to that. "We applaud the steps by our European allies and partners to reduce their reliance on Russian oil and natural gas by diversifying their sources of energy and reducing consumption in line with our shared climate goals." More than 23,000 Ukrainians have been authorized to come to the U.S. under a new program. More than 23,000 Ukrainians, again, have been authorized to come to the United States as part of the Biden administration's streamlined process for Ukrainian refugees seeking to come to the U.S., according to the Department of Homeland Security. In April, U.S. President Joe Biden announced Uniting for Ukraine, a program that provides a pathway for Ukrainians interested in coming to the U.S. for a temporary period. The program requires Ukrainians seeking entry to the U.S. to be sponsored by a U.S. citizen or individual, which could include resettlement organizations and nonprofit organizations. Applicants must also undergo rigorous security vetting and checks, including biographic and biometric screening, and complete vaccinations and other public health requirements, including receiving the COVID-19 vaccine to be eligible. As of the 31st of May, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services have received more than 42,000 requests from applicants agreeing to support Ukrainians, again, according to the Department of Human Services. Actually, that's Department of Homeland Security there. Apologies for that. Again, in a statement from the State Department earlier, the United States remains concerned about steps, quote, and this is a direct quote from that statement. This is from State Department spokesperson Ned Price today, Tuesday. He said, concerned about steps Russia is taking to attempt to institutionalize control over sovereign Ukrainian territory, particularly in Ukraine's Kherson region. Again, speaking at a briefing, Price said that the Kremlin is probably weighing a few approaches from recognizing a so-called People's Republic, as Russia forcibly did in Donetsk and Luhansk, to an attempted annexation, just as Russia did in Crimea. A quote from that report saying, "It's a predictable part of the Russian playbook, which is why we are continuing to sound the alarm now, particularly following Russian President Putin's unilateral decree that would fast-track the issuance of Russian passports to Ukrainian citizens. Russia used similar tactics in Donetsk and Luhansk in 2019. Quote, saying Russia is almost certainly failing to gain legitimacy for proxy governments in newly seized territories in Ukraine as protests persist and residents refuse to cooperate. Not only have we heard reports of protests and refusal to cooperate, but we have heard reports of full-on attacks by citizen-led militia groups in some areas in Ukraine, fighting directly against some of those occupying Russian forces in many areas that have been taken under control by those Russian forces. Ukraine is working on a UN-led naval operation to export agricultural products, says a foreign minister. Says the Ukrainian foreign minister there. Again, a UN-led naval operation, that's directly from the quote there, with navies of partnering countries to ensure a safe trade route for exporting its agricultural products, Ukrainian Foreign Ministry Dmytro Kuleba said on Tuesday. Direct quote from that report saying, Ukraine is working on an international UN-led operation with navies of partners ensuring a safe trade route with no security risks, Kuleba wrote on Twitter without providing any further details on the operation. In the tweet, the foreign minister blamed Russia of playing Hunger Games with the world by blocking Ukrainian food exports, with one hand trying to shift the blame on Ukraine with the other. During a phone call on Monday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky that Ankara places a particular importance on efforts to establish a safe corridor to Ukrainian agricultural products by sea, according to a Turkish readout of the call. Again, on Friday, Zelensky said that 22 million tons of grain, accounting for nearly half of Ukraine's grain export supply, is being held up by Russia's blockade of the main export routes through the Black Sea and the Azov Sea. The Kremlin has repeatedly rejected the accusations that it has blocked grain supplies from Ukraine and has accused the West of actions that have led to this crisis. Again, that concludes our primary headlines for this evening, our primary topics here. We're going to switch over now to our community aggregated reports from our Situation Room on the Discord server. Give me a second here to bring that up. We're also going to switch over. We're going to switch over to our big screen as well. There we go. That looks better. So that everybody can see. Get that zoomed out a little bit. All right. We're going to scroll down to our latest post here. Before I start, if anybody is interested in following along with the posts I'm about to read, you can find them in the Situation Room channel over on the Discord server. If you'd like to contribute to tonight's reports or to any of the nightly reports, you can post your reports over there in the Situation Room. Any intelligence reports you have, maybe a news article, a video, a source from Twitter, Telegram, etc. Feel free. You can post them over there in the Situation Room, as long as they are related to the current topic, which again is the Ukrainian crisis, the Ukrainian-Russian war that is occurring now. Again, I reiterate that probably one of the best sources of news, of up-to-date reports on what's going on in Ukraine, can be found over on our Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. Our first post from this evening comes from a user by the name of Carbon, longtime contributor. I believe Carbon is also a server booster as well over on the Discord server. Thank you so much, Carbon, for sticking around and showing your support. This post, again, comes from Nexta, a verified Twitter source here. Olaf Scholz announced that Germany will transfer its IFV to Greece, and Athens will deliver Soviet-made equipment to Kiev. Schultz did not specify which IFVs were being referred and how many would be transferred to Ukraine. Germany now equipped with Marder and Puma IFVs, as you can see there. Those stand for infantry fighting vehicles. Again, you can see a picture on screen of those vehicles. Looks to be on a train there. Again, thank you to Carbon for sending over that post in the Situation Room. Our next post this evening comes from Pyrotech, another longtime contributor and fellow Pyro. Thank you so much, Pyrotech, for posting this in the Situation Room. This comes from Nexta as well. Talking about Putin cleans out the sewage system for the residents of the Kiev region. In the Bovarsky district, there was an unusual machine for pumping out the contents of the sewer. On the barrel of the car is a portrait of the main terrorist of recent years, Putin, as you can see there, painted on that sewage truck in Kiev. Thank you to Pyrotech for posting that in the Situation Room. Our next post comes from Lords of Acid on the Situation Room, longtime contributor. And it looks like this might have been removed. So yeah, it does look like that post has been removed since it was posted. However, I can read you the tweet actually because it's still in the preview here. It says exclusive: Yeltsin's son-in-law quits as Putin advisor. Sources: Valentin Yumashev, one of Yeltsin's advisors, most instrumental in making Putin president, quits. Interesting. Yeltsin's son-in-law quits as Putin advisor. Interesting. Okay, that's an unconfirmed report coming from a Twitter user by the name of Felix Light, posted by Lords of Acid. Thank you so much, Lords of Acid, for posting that. Green Doggo is our next poster here from the Situation Room. This report comes from Reuters here. And I will read you this article here. If you'd like to read the full article, you can find it in the Situation Room. Again, this was posted by Green Doggo. But comes from Reuters.com. Again, from Washington on May 30th, the United States will not send Ukraine rocket systems that can reach into Russia. President Joe Biden said on Monday, as Ukraine pushes for longer-range weapon system to help in its fight. Ukrainian officials have been asking allies for longer-range systems, including the Multiple Launch Rocket System, or MLRS, that can fire a barrage of rockets from hundreds of miles away. Quote, "We're not going to send to Ukraine rocket systems that strike into Russia," Biden told reporters after arriving back at the White House after a weekend in Delaware. Very interesting report there. Again, stating that they will not be sending basically offensive weapons. They're saying there that they're not going to be sending those rocket systems that can reach into Russia. Again, thank you to everybody that stopped by this evening that is joining us now for tonight's report. We just got done with our main headlines, and we're now, again, we're starting on kind of our community aggregated reports from our Situation Room over on the Discord server. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention, get this information into a lot more minds. Our next post here comes from a Rot Lady on the Discord server. This is actually from her personal Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. Has anyone else noticed that it's almost 11 a.m. Moscow time and the EU meeting about a Russian oil embargo and Putler has been silent? Maybe there's something to MI6 findings. That is an interesting piece of speculation there. Quite possible. Again, thank you for posting that in the Situation Room, Lat Lady. Our next post here comes from Lords of Acid on the Discord server, long-time contributor. Comes from an unverified user on Twitter by the name of TJ. At the start of the invasion, they were using 555. Recently, they have changed to 777 and also 000. 555 and 777 is likely successful missile launch. Returning to base 000 might indicate no launch/malfunction. Chart out of focus. Okay, so Tu-22 M3 backfire rear crew. So that's what we're seeing here. It's a Tu-22M3 backfire rear crew, and we're seeing some codes here on this piece of paper that could indicate some call signs. So speaking about these radio charts that they're using here, again, this is a recording of activity on Russian Air Force strategic bomber VoiceNet on 4694 kilohertz UTC at about 2300 hours UTC. Aircraft calling ground control, I believe aircraft 20840 calling ground control. Ochiska in Moscow. Okay, so they're talking here about these call signs that are being exchanged over radio. I believe our radio guys have mentioned this before, actually, with these radio charts. Some of their call signs for, again, some of these missile launches here, and some of the different things there that they're needing to call back on. Interesting, very interesting report there coming from Lords of Acid on the Discord server. Thank you so much for posting that, Lords of Acid. Another one that came out from around the same time there, Russian Air Force strategic bomber VoiceNet was active on the 4694 kilohertz USB at 2336 UTC. So this was over the weekend. Again, that that Russian Air Force VoiceNet lit up like a Christmas tree. Again, and air raid sirens occurred in the east around the same time. Very interesting. Again, another post from over the weekend that was removed here. It looks like it was removed. I'll read you the excerpt here. Update. Unusual conditions show Russian Navy warship patrolling off of Crimean coast today. Sea conditions allow us to see the tracks long enough to show the turns at the end of the runs. Again, this comes from Covert Shores on Twitter. Again, that post was removed, though, so take that with a grain of salt. Again, this post comes from Carbon. Thank you so much, Carbon, for sending this over. This comes from Euromaidan Press. Talking about Poland transfers to Ukraine self-propelled artillery units, HAS Crab. These are 3 batteries, 18 self-propelled 155mm howitzers. The Polish army has already trained 100 Ukrainian servicemen to use these weapons, says Andrzej Kiniński. Very interesting report there. Our next post comes from A Fire Life 2 on the Situation Room. Thank you so much, A Fire Life, for sending this over. It comes from Kiev Independent. It says Russia, Serbia to sign a 3-year gas contract. Serbian President Alexander Vučić says Russia could give Serbia the best price in Europe for its gas. If we realize everything, we will have a safe winter when it comes to gas, says Vučić. Again, that's Serbian president there. Again, that wraps up our community aggregated reports for this evening. We actually had one more that just came in from Rat Lady. Thank you so much, Rat Lady, for sending this over. I'll get this one in here before we're over here. This comes from a verified source here on Twitter from yesterday. The battle for Donbass has seen Russia switch to artillery barrages the last day and night. Ukraine's National Guard have endured much of it and have shared their footage with the BBC. The video below is what's left of Rubizin. Again, this footage, this does show some, again, possibly sensitive content. So I'm just going to review it really quick before we get that on screen for you guys, just to make sure there's no gore or anything like that in there that will be against a TOS for us. So it does look to be safe. There is a, it does show them hauling what seems to be a stretcher away, I believe. But this is from a drone footage, so we're going to take a look at this. So you can see here just the amount of destruction here in that town. Go ahead and we'll skip over to about here, and I can show you guys some of the destruction here in that town. I believe this is in Rubizin. So this is what is left of that town. I'll go full screen just so you guys could kind of see some of the damage here. I know the screen will be a little cut off, but you guys can see just how destroyed that town is. And many cities and towns in the east are like this, just completely and utterly demolished, fully destroyed. Roads destroyed, the the houses, all of the civilian residential buildings completely and utterly devastated. As you can see here, nothing but utter and complete destruction everywhere you look in a lot of these towns and cities. As Russia has mainly relied on just bombarding them to smithereens. You can see another video here posted underneath. Again, the guardsmen held out for 2 months before retreating to Lysychansk a couple of weeks ago. Many were combat veterans but hadn't experienced anything like this. It wasn't Mariupol, but it was pretty close, one man told me. Between 1,000 and 1,500 strikes a day. So they're talking about shellings and missile strikes, air bombardments. You can see there what looks to be some phosphorus maybe being used there. Not sure if that's white phosphorus or not there, but looks to be some kind of incendiary munition there. Again, you can see some more footage here of that indiscriminate shelling of Rubizin, Lysychansk, and Severodonetsk. Artillery was removing those houses very fast. People were trying to hide in the basement, so they had no view, no assessment of the current situation. So there was a lot of losses during that time. So they're saying basically, people were hiding in their basements, and they didn't realize that, they were just destroying the houses one by one. And so as they're hiding in their basements, they don't know what's going on, and they get hit. And again, many people succumbed in their basements sheltering. Again, so this is again a report talking about the chemical plant that was destroyed, that was hit there. Talking about service members were left struggling for breath with blood pouring from their mouths and noses. Again, referring to the town's chemical plant. I believe they're speaking of the nitric acid plant. Yep, that's the nitric acid there. Okay, so textbook nitric acid, I believe, is the orange cloud here you see. That's indicative of that orange cloud. We've seen a few of these plants attacked in Ukraine. Jeez. Yeah, they were lucky to be in cover there. You can see just everything is completely destroyed there in that region. He says here, this isn't a campaign of attrition, it's a war of oblivion. When I asked about Russian tactics, quote, well, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of artillery bombardments are like a nightmare, and we shoot one round, they shoot 10. I'll show you guys this video here. I'll get that audio going for you guys here so you can hear that. So you can see here pieces of artillery shells in that video that had exploded. You can see how thick that fragmentation is too on those artillery shells. It really puts it in perspective to you, kind of the fragmentation that comes off of those explosions and how deadly some of that fragmentation can be. When our sniper is shooting, they send in a full packet of grads on his position. So it's basically a sniper with one bullet, and they send like $1,000 artillery rounds for just a sniper. So they really don't care about how much ammunition they use. Take a look here. Looks like a light machine gunner there, actually, if I'm not mistaken. You can see some more footage here of just absolutely destroyed village here. You can see some bodies left behind. I believe those are Russian soldiers. You can see here a video coming through a night vision tube here. Very interesting. Again, thank you for sending over that post. I believe that was Rat Lady who sent that over. Much appreciated. We're now going to, again, that wraps up our community aggregated reports for this evening. I know we don't have time to go through all of them, every report, but if you would like to go through those, you can find those over in the Situation Room on the Discord server. Fancy Hat, actually, sorry, Fancy Hat, I just saw this here, sends me over a good report here. This comes from NPR. I believe that's National Public Radio, if I'm not mistaken. Belarusians volunteer to fight for Ukraine, defying their Russian-backed regime. Again, we'll bring up this article here. We'll finish our community aggregated reports off with this tonight. I recommend, if you want to go view this here, again, you can view it on npr.org if you want to read the entire article here. This comes from Warsaw, Poland. Inside a sunny classroom in a leafy neighborhood, a burly man in army fatigues and a black martial arts t-shirt holds up a tourniquet. Quote, "We use this for serious gunshot and shrapnel wounds, or if we have severed limbs because of explosions," he says in Polish to about 30 men. An interpreter repeats the instructions in Russian for the class. All men are from the small former Soviet Republic of Belarus. They're learning first aid before heading into Ukraine, where they will join the Katus Khmelnytsky Battalion, an all-Belarusian volunteer brigade that fights alongside Ukrainian soldiers. Quote, "We have this motto, for our and your freedom," says Pavel Kohuta, a brigade leader in charge of new recruits who say he receives 100 applications a day. "We're totally in solidarity with the Ukrainian people." Again, Fancy Cat, thank you so much for sending that over. I bet that is a wonderful read. Again, to go through that whole article, if you would like to do that, you can find that on npr.org. We're now going to switch over to our open source reporting for about the past 12. Actually, we don't have very many reports coming out on Ukraine Live Map this evening, so I'm going to go, I think, back down to about the past 24 hours, and we're going to get everybody caught up on what's going on in about the past 24 hours or so. Usually we do the past 12, but it doesn't look like they have sometimes the live viewing map lags behind a little bit, especially during the late evening hours in Ukraine, which again, it's about 3:45 a.m. their time currently. So at about the 24-hour mark, we had a lot of air raid sirens here. We have Donetsk Oblast, Kryvyi Rih, Zaporizhia, Dnipro Oblast, Poltavska Oblast, Kharkivska Oblast, Sumatska Oblast, Donetsk Oblast, and Kramatorsk Oblast, and Kharkiv and Kharkivska Oblast. More air raid alerts there. Quite a few. And 19 hours ago here, 3 killed, 6 wounded as a result of Russian missile strike in Sloviansk. You can see where that was located on the map here in the central eastern part of the country near Kramatorsk. You can see as those Russian forces have continued to kind of conduct this pincer movement here, kind of going along. I believe this is let me see here. Is this a rail line here that I'm looking at? Or is this a highway? Because it's not giving me the highway name. Up here by Seversk. Again, they're trying to cut off the Russian soldiers which are in this pocket here around Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. You can see here that Severodonetsk has been primarily taken under Russian control. When we get up to the top here, you'll see that there's another few reports that came in earlier, and we'll talk about those here in just a few minutes. Fancy Hat is actually over on YouTube, Tango. Yeah, just so everybody doesn't know, Fancy Hat's YouTube channel did get removed by YouTube. Again, there was some controversy that occurred there. I don't know the full story here, but the gist of it is that there were some bad actors, again, that conducted some things to get his channel removed. He's now over on Twitch. He's using Twitch He's actually joining us on our Twitch channel right now in the live chat. Hello, Fancy Hat. Again, as soon as you get your YouTube channel back up and running, we'll be sending you some support your way for sure, man. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. And I don't know if I have yet. If I haven't modded you over on Twitch chat, I need to do that real quick. Did I do that yet? Let me see here. Oh, you are modded. Okay, good. All right, good. Just making sure you are modded. All right, awesome. Again, thank you, Fancy Hat. Much appreciated. Big shout out. Again, let's move on here with our open source reports. 19 hours ago here at Kharkiv direction, Russian army shelled Terny, Lazova, Protopavivka, Rodnivi, and Solivka. That came from a report directly from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in their morning report. We get quite a few of these reports coming from directly from the Ukrainians now, so it's really nice. 18 hours ago at Slavyansk direction, Russian army shelled Dohivki, Vernopila, Grushnokavka, Velivka, Komyshahavka. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing those 100% correct. I'm trying to do better with the pronunciation. I've been working on it. Again, and attempted to assault Dohivkny and a few different areas there. You can see on the map where these strikes were located. If I zoom out here, you can see these were located here, and these were located here. 18 hours ago, battles continue at Severodonetsk and Toshivka. That came from, again, that morning report from the Ukrainian Armed Forces. You can see where those offenses are located there on the map. "18 hours ago here at the Bakhmut direction, Russian army conducting assault near Azolty, Komyshavka, and quite a few other regions there you can see located on the map here. Again, just a quick shout out to Miss Chris for the support over there on Twitch. Highly appreciated. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. As always, it is awesome to have you, Miss Chris, tuning in. It's really great to see, again, so many people returning for these nightly reports. Miss Fishy Fish Eye Eater says, Nemico Network, you need to add Nightbot back to the to take care of the perv bots. I believe she's referring to the those chat bots there, the automated chat bots, which spam links to their websites in YouTube chat. I thought I had set up Stream Elements to take care of that, but if I need to re-add Nightbot, I will do that. Again, we will have our 24/7 cam stream back up right after this report is done, as usual. I know it was down for about a day there, but we'll be getting it back up. And I'll be working on making sure those cams are auto-refreshed for you guys until our next report. Fancy Hat says, I found a way to auto-bend them without worrying about a bot. I'll DM you. Well, thank you so much, Fancy Hat, for sending that over. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, those perf bots, they change their names and URLs quite often, so it can be a pain to keep up with them sometimes. But yeah, we'll look at getting that taken care of for you guys, for sure, 100%. Again, moving on here, 18 hours ago, Russian aviation conducted airstrikes. So that's Russian Air Force there, conducted airstrikes near Molotomunchka and a few other regions there. You can see where they were located. Not too far from Zaporizhia. I believe this is in Zaporizhia Oblast, if I'm not mistaken. 18 hours ago, Russian artillery shelled Alexandrivka and a few other regions there. You can see where those strikes all were located here. Some near Kherson and some near Kryvyi there. 17 hours ago, 3 people were unfortunately killed in shelling in the Kharkiv region. You can see where those strikes were located. 16 hours ago, after an ammonia pipeline damage, smell reported only in Tarnivy village. You can see where that is located there. Smell of ammonia. Again, after that strike occurred. 16 hours ago, explosions again in Mykolaiv as more strikes occurred there in that area. 15 hours ago, Poland Prime Minister This is ahead of the Yuko Day 2. Russia is a barbaric country, cannot be relied upon in any way. It turned out to be a criminal country. We're discussing to move away ASAP, not only from coal or oil, but also in the longer term, as some member states emphasize, from gas. 15 hours ago, a bridge at the Davidiv Brid was blown up. You can see there the picture of that destroyed bridge on screen there. You can see a chunk of it is missing. 15 hours ago, Russian troops have captured approximately half of Severodonetsk city. Heavy battles ongoing, says the head of the administration. Again, that came from 15 hours ago. 13 hours ago, head of Zaporizhia Regional Administration calls population to evacuate dangerous zones of the region immediately. Again, you can see where that is located here in the Zaporizhia Oblast. 13 hours ago, Slovak President Zuzana Chaputova spoke to the Verkhovna Rada. Slovakia plans to supply Zuzana howitzers to Ukraine. Again, just reiterate there, Slovakia is sending howitzers, at least they plan to send howitzers to Ukraine. Those are those artillery systems. 9 hours ago, Russian forces attempting to establish full control over Severodonetsk and encircle Ukrainian defense forces. Again, that came from a evening report by the Ukrainian armed forces. Again, just a few moments ago, I talked about that report at the 15-hour mark, right here, talking about Russian troops capturing approximately half of Severodonetsk. So here at the 9-hour mark, we have a report saying that they were attempting to establish a full control. Again, they talked about that as a, quote, frenzied push from what we've heard it referred to as. 9 hours ago, Russian forces deploying mines at the shores of Inhulets River to prevent a possible offensive of Ukrainian forces. Russian aviation conducted airstrikes near Davidiv, Brid of Kherson region. Again, that came from the evening report from the armed forces of Ukraine. You can see where those strikes were located here, north of Crimea. Hold on, let me get that up on the map here. You can see where those strikes are located here. There's a lot of fighting happening here to the north of the Crimean Peninsula in the Kherson Oblast and the Zaporizhia Oblast. So there's this fight happening here in the south. We also have the fight happening here in the east in the Donbass. So these two different areas are both under conflict at this time. Heavy conflict, one would argue. 7 hours ago, head of regional administration says Severodonetsk is now largely under Russian control. This came from 7 hours ago. Again, as those Russian forces there have made, quote, a frenzied push, that's what they've called it, a frenzied push over the past about 12 to 24 hours here to take over that city. We're going to get this refreshed here. Just make sure there are no sporadic reports that have just come in. And we do. As usual, we have our nightly round of air raid alerts for you here coming out of Ukraine. 3 hours ago, Kharkiv and the Kharkivsk Oblast. Red alert, aerial threat, sirens sounding now. Kirohodaratska Oblast, Cherkasska Oblast, and Poltavska Oblast. All red alerts. Sumaska Oblast, that's up by Sumy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, up by Sumy. Also, under air raid alert. Kiev, in the capital city, air raid alert. That's 3 hours ago. 3 hours ago, Terniska Oblast, Kiev Oblast, Zymirska Oblast, all red alert aerial threat sirens. 38 minutes ago as well. So a fresh one here coming in from Kharkiv. And the Kharkivsk Oblast also states that there are air raid sirens sounding now. Again, it is only about 4 a.m. in Ukraine at this time. So this is our morning pattern. The Russians have this habit of striking in the early wee morning hours, as they have from the beginning of this war. Again, big shout out to everybody that has tuned in tonight, that has stopped by for tonight's report. Mother Saki's, again, really quickly, we'll be switching over to our Q&A now. We'll be answering questions and reading comments from the live chats on both YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself there for a second. Mother Saki says, at Nemico Network, I love you, man, but it's driving me crazy. The K is silent. Kherson. Yeah, so I got that right with Kharkiv. I got to work on Kherson now. Got to work on Kherson. That'll be my next one there, pronouncing it Kherson. and not Kherson. I'll be working on that. In Ukrainian, I've noticed that not all K's are silent. And so, it's been a little tricky for me as an English speaker to work on getting to properly pronounce all of those names. It says, now I feel bad for offering to help with pronunciations. No, actually, 100%. Um, I totally condone helping me get those pronunciations under my belt. Cam955 says, Nemico Network, have you seen the reporting about Belarus's June 22 through early July for mobilization exercises and military meetings with their troops? This reporting reminds me of how Russia was doing the almost same thing before Russia began their invasion of Ukraine. So it worries me regardless about what experts say about Belarus's military, because Belarus doesn't has to be a tough army in order to be a distraction while Russia invades Ukraine. And you are exactly right, Cam. I've said this from the beginning, time after time again, that it is a continuing possibility that Belarus will get involved in one way or another. Even as Cam says here, maybe a minor distraction. Send them into a region, possibly in the north, to capture a few bits of territory, take some of those Russian forces in the east and get them distracted with what's going on there in the north. It's always a possibility. I have said, though, that it's more likely that if Belarus gets involved, that they will most likely just be sent in as a support role into some of those eastern regions, possibly to hold territory while those Russian forces move further west. That could be a possibility as well. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Access denied says, so I've heard Russia is possibly setting up an anti-ship weapons on Snake Island to stop grain shipments from getting out, and if NATO wants to navally escort cargo ships, what will you think will happen? I've also heard of those weapon systems being set up on Snake Island. I don't think that's directly due to the grain shipments. It could be. I don't want to eliminate that possibility. Access asks, if NATO wants to navally escort cargo ships, what do you think will happen? My bets are on that Russia will let it happen. I don't think they have the balls, or at least I don't think they have the resources right now to get further involved here. I think with NATO in a conflict in the Black Sea here. It's again, NATO, the UN just wants to get that cargo out so they can feed, so they can feed the starving people that are in countries that are being heavily affected by the lack of those food exports. So there's a lot of Middle Eastern countries, African countries that are being heavily affected. I mean, not just them though. Here in the U.S., in the West, Canada, the U.S., South America, in Europe as well, food prices have all been affected. So we're all being affected here, but there's quite a few countries that are being heavily affected by the lack of those food exports. And so again, that could be an issue that is continually compounded here and pushes NATO and the UN to act here to get those cargo ships moving. Will it cause a conflict there? I don't know. My bets are on that Russia will stand by and let them export that grain. Mimi says a lot of Russians from Bucha got sent east. I think and their battalion got thrashed. Karma. Yes, I've heard very similar that a lot of Russians from the north were sent east. Basically, all of them were redeployed to the east of the country. There were some units that were left behind in and along the border regions, both in Belarus and Russia, in some areas. However, for the most part, the majority were sent. A majority of those Russian battle groups were redeployed to the east of the country. Miss Fishy Fish Eye Eater says, just in case, I won't be online for 2 weeks starting on Thursday. Well, Miss Fishy, I hope you have a wonderful break and I hope to see you back soon. We also will be taking possibly a break this week later. Last week's and this week's reporting is a little spotty because we are. I got a few things going on down here on my end. So again, we had that 4-day weekend over Memorial Day. I'm bringing you guys tonight's report, and then I'm hoping to bring you guys tomorrow's report for Wednesday if I can. I will have to be going out of town later this week, though, so I'm going to keep you guys posted on what's going on and what nights we'll be able to bring you guys reports. Throw 1111 says Severodonetsk is 70% controlled according to Kiev Independent. Yep, that's the latest information we have. Majority controlled by those Russian forces at this time. Ceiling Cat 9001 says God remembers his own. He also knows each of these men by face. You are right, Ceiling. And I believe that's true for the men on both sides of the conflict. He'll remember the good deeds done by Ukrainian soldiers, and he'll most definitely have an eye on some of the tragedy that has occurred on behalf of these Russian soldiers, of these Russian forces in Ukraine. Mimi says they're managing to prosecute some. They're not very bright and got caught. Yes, there's been quite a few prosecutions here by the Ukrainians. There's been quite a few war crimes trials that have started here as well. We witnessed one of the first convictions. I believe that was last week, if not the week before. Gregory Lane says no anti-ship missiles on Snake Island, observation positions only. Well, that is at the moment, but I believe they are. There has been talk of them moving those systems into place on Snake Island. There's also been a few different bits of information that have come out in recent weeks, pointed towards that they're already moving that equipment in that general direction. Dirk Clavispear, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, always watching, not always commenting. When reading articles, I just insert the words unpronounceable name whenever I come across a city or town in the article. Yeah, I try to do my due diligence when it comes to, putting in the work and pronouncing. I owe it to the Ukrainian people to at least be able to attempt to pronounce their town names correctly. Okay, sometimes I don't always get it correct, but I believe at least trying. I owe them that. I owe them at least trying to pronounce them correctly. Bernadette, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you for those kind words. Much appreciated. Jake Miller, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Just Me says, yeah, speaking of God's Eye, have you heard some of the stories floating around about Putin? Come on. Yeah, there has been a lot of. Over the weekend, I got tons. People send me tons of all of these speculative posts about Putin's health and that he had died and all this stuff. I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of that over the weekend. A lot of people sent me information over. I think a lot of that is unconfirmed. I would say all of that is unconfirmed at this time. Patty Whack, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, hey, finally able to catch you. Hi, Nemico. Thank you so much, Patty Whack, for tuning in. Bernie Schumack asks, what will it take for NATO to end this or put boots on the ground? I think it would take an Article 5, as we've mentioned before, or the use of nuclear weapons, or possibly even chemical weapons. It's all a matter of what do the NATO leaders feel on any given day. Like what are they feeling? If they're having a bad day and Russia makes a wrong move, are they just going to say, "Screw it, let's go in, let's do this"? We're not standing around anymore. We're pissed off. We're going to get this done. We're going to move in. We're going to put boots on the ground. You know what I mean? I believe it. It has a lot to do on what's happening on any given day or week. Okay, as the conflict kind of goes up and down, as the conflict level increases and decreases, the situation changes very, very rapidly. It only takes one strike, one atrocity to push, these Western leaders over the edge to the point where they're going to cross that line. However, it's extremely unlikely that they do so. Again, nothing less than an Article 5, I believe. Kender says, thank you as always for the report. Thank you so much, Kender, for tuning in tonight and for the continued support. Kender, you're awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hoping to get some members-only content out to all my YouTube members hopefully soon. So just a few little things here I'm going to be sending your guys' way in the coming weeks. X Custom Cluster with a very wise piece of information that I believe everybody needs to take to heart. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. People need to know this. You are so right, X Custom Cluster, and we try to do our due diligence on letting people know that you cannot believe everything you see online, especially when it comes to this war, from all sources. Take every single piece of information with a grain of salt at all times. I've seen even primary we're talking AAA sources of information here go back on posts because something was later confirmed to not be true. Okay, so especially in the immediate, when things are breaking, especially when you have like breaking news, when things are new, take everything you see from every source with a grain of salt until you see corroborating evidence. Patty Wax has rumors all weekend that Putin died. Yes, I had people blowing up my phone at odd hours of the night, talking about Putin had died. Again, haven't gotten anything confirmed on that yet. Tango Down says send in Maverick. Are you referring to Mr. Cruz? Access Denied says, hope you have a good one, Nem. See you tomorrow, or if not, have a good few days. Same to you, Access. Yeah, I'm going to try to make it back here for everybody tomorrow to get you guys caught up on what's going on, again, in Ukraine. If you missed tonight's report, we will be uploading it as a video on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Nemico Network. As always, we upload those reports after they're done live. If you're looking for any of the links to our sources, any of the links to our cameras, any links to our tools, you can find those in the description below. If not, if you can't find it there, you can find it over on our Discord server. Everybody is welcome to join. We have an amazing, beautiful community over there, which we have built over the past few months, stretching back into years. Our community has been around for years, but especially over the past few months since this war has began, and since we've gotten the influx of people coming for this, very valuable information, we have built a beautiful community. I love every single one of you guys, and anybody is welcome to join us over there. It's a wonderful source for up-to-date information on what's going on, not just with the Ukrainian conflict, but on a much broader level as well. Also, some wonderful people over there, and a wonderful place to join in on the conversation. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention and get this information into the hands of a lot more people. It is very important that we do so. The first part of this battle, 50% of this battle, is getting people informed. Okay, if we get people informed, people, they call their senators, they call their politicians, and they tell them, send support to Ukraine. Okay, if people are informed of what is going on, then they know how to act. All right, if people are informed, it makes it harder. If people are informed on the facts, it makes it much harder for propaganda, for false news to do its job. All right. Again, wonderful source for getting verified, vetted information is the Discord server. We make great strides in bringing you guys vetted reports, making sure that if something is proven to be false news, propaganda, to make it known or to remove it altogether from the pool of information that is over there on the Discord server. Again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Best way to support the channel. Also, best way to get notified when new videos and streams go live. Speaking of which, we have a lot of new videos and streams planned coming down the pipeline for you guys in the coming weeks and months here. I know as we move into summer, and as this war grinds on, we have to focus on kind of not only how we're going to be bringing you guys information on the war in the long haul, but also returning to some of the other content, which I hope to produce for you guys on the channel as well. I got a whole bunch of open source intelligence content, tech stuff coming down the pipeline. We got some. I know some people wanted to see some more fireworks content. We have some of that stuff coming down the pipeline for you guys. We have our 10-year anniversary video coming up. 10 years that we've been on YouTube, and also I have our subscriber special. We have quite a big subscriber special that I gotta get worked up for you guys here because we blew past our our goal, to say the least. And so I've been trying to put together kind of a really nice subscriber special for you guys to kind of give something back to you, kind of a fun little video there. Kind of get our minds off of all this that is going on now in the world today. Again, thank you guys so much for stopping by tonight. To every single one of you guys, you're awesome. It's great to have you. It's really great. Oh, whoops. Whoops. Accidentally switched to the wrong scene there. Anyway, it's great to have you guys. It's really great to have so many returning viewers that have been here dedicated every single day to stopping by and getting up to date on what is going on. And not just that, but have been dedicated to contributing to the community, to the reports, to the conversation, and as well, supporting the channel. It means a lot to me, guys. Thank you so much to all of you. To everybody out there, have a wonderful evening or a wonderful morning, depending on where you're tuning in from. Until next time, guys, again, you can stop by tomorrow night. Every weekday night, we do these Ukrainian war reports as long as the war continues, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We may, in the future, reduce that, like the number of reports a week, down to a few, depending on how things go. But for now, 8 p.m. every weekday night. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 a.m. Ukraine time. So when it's 3 a.m. in Ukraine, we're here giving you guys the scoop, giving you guys filled in on what's going on. So again, next time, guys, until next time, take it easy. You are watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history.